It's about 1 after 6, and I suspect that we'll have other folks joining us as they leave certain responsibilities and enter into other opportunities. Welcome for those of you who are here. I'm Dr. Lynn Harder, and I have the honor of being chair of the Alumni Relations Committee in Communication Studies. As part of that, I get to interface with our Alumni Advisory Council. One of the things that we do is we host Bobcat-to-Bobcat sessions, which are really opportunities for students and faculty and alums to learn together, to foster that ongoing curiosity. So tonight, it's my honor to welcome you, and I will turn it over to Amy Chambers, who is a student representative on our Alumni Advisory Council, and she's been helping to coordinate this very special Bobcat-to-Bobcat with Erin Scholes, and she will tell you a little bit more about Erin. And Erin, in turn, and her assistant Elena will kind of give you some guardrails for their expectations for the event and how you can participate. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Harder. Like she said, if you don't recognize me, my name is Amy. I'm one of the student representatives on the Alumni Council. And I tonight have the honor of introducing Erin Scholes. She is the president and founder of the San Diego Meetings and Event Company, a third-party meeting management business specializing in hotel sourcing, full-service meeting planning, and event operations staffing. She has over 20 years in meeting and event management experience, planning hundreds of meetings and events. Erin graduated from OU in 1999 with a degree in organizational communications with an emphasis on special events. She was an active member of Pi Beta Phi sorority and was part of the Corporate Communication Leaders Program within the School of Interpersonal Communications. Erin and the team at San Diego Meetings have successfully converted their years of managing in-person events and are now sought-after digital event experts. They have been helping clients find the right technology, tools, and tricks to produce events in the virtual and hybrid world. Erin has been a dedicated member of the San Diego chapter of Meeting Professionals Intel since 2000, including serving as chapter president. She is also a faculty member of San Diego State University's Hospitality and Tourism Management Meetings and Event Programs. During her tenure in the business, Erin has been recognized with numerous industry awards, including the coveted MPI Chair Award, Smart Women in Meetings winner, and MPI San Diego's Community Leader Award. She has also earned the respected professional designations, Certified Meeting Professional, Certified Special Event Professional, Certificate in Meeting Management, and most recently in Digital Event Strategies. So everybody, please virtually put your hands together for Erin Scholes.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Dr. Harder. Thank you to OU for having me tonight. I'm so honored and so happy to kick off homecoming weekend with you all. It's 3 o'clock in San Diego. I know it's 6 o'clock there, which when I was at OU was almost happy hour time, right? So thank you to everyone for being here tonight on your Thursday, but I know you youngins also stay up quite a bit later than me, so your happy hours probably start much later. Anyway, a couple things that we're going to point, just brief housekeeping. Elena is muted everyone, just if there's background noise or anything, she's muted everyone. Later, we will give you the opportunity to unmute yourself when we get to Q&A. In the meantime, if you have any questions and you want to put them in the chat, Elena from the SD Meetings team will do her best to respond. Before we get started, I just want to point out the company is SD Meetings. And yes, I live in San Diego and it stands for San Diego, but we plan meetings all over the country and all over the globe. So we have taken the San Diego out. And so we are just SD Meetings because we do plan conferences all over. We started using the terms strategic design, strategic development, stunning destinations. I'm open to other ideas of what you think SD could stand for. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen and our presentation for this evening. And if I go down in any way, because like any good virtual event, there is the chance of something technology happening. Elena is going to be here in the background. So tonight we're here to talk about meetings mean business. And I'll get through exactly what meetings mean business shortly. But really, I'm here to talk to you about the job of a meeting planner. Some people say event planner, wedding planner. I'm here to tell you, I don't do weddings. I love attending weddings. I love being a guest of a wedding. My wedding was one of my favorite events I've ever produced, but that is not what we do. We focus quite a bit more on the meetings and the business element of what meetings provide to organizations. So I'm going to talk through what the job looks like, what we do day to day, and then really what it means to meetings mean business. Okay, I love this, and I always kick off every presentation with it because we all have our vision of what does a meeting or event planner do, and it's everyone has different viewpoints of it, right? Your friends think we're the ones planning the parties and the cocktail hours. My mom still thinks this, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, that I'm planning parties, birthday parties, bounce houses, things like that. Our clients, without a doubt, think we're the superheroes. We can make anything happen at any moment, at any time. The world, like I mentioned, weddings in the center. I like to think what we do is put on these gorgeous gala events every evening, but actually what we're doing is we're putting out fires, or hopefully there are no fires to be put out if you plan ahead and you've got everything planned and you don't actually have to put the fires out. So I always love sharing that meme on what does a meeting planner do? A bit about me, feel free to read my bio, and thank you, Amy, for the wonderful introduction. But briefly, I have over 23 years of hotel meeting and event experience, most of it in hotels. The last 8 years, I've been the owner of an event agency called SD Meetings. I graduated from OU. I love having the opportunity to talk to you all. I spoke with other hospitality programs, so it's so great to be talking to a group of students that are attending the school that I know and love. As Amy mentioned, I did have a focus in special events, and I'll get to that in a bit. There wasn't a lot of classes when I graduated, but there were a couple and a few that really stuck with me and made me want to go into what I do. And I'm going to share a little anecdotal story too that I don't share all the time, but is relevant for those of you that are at OU. When I attended OU, and I don't know if it's still the same, we had break from right before Thanksgiving till right after the New Year. So we had a really long 6-week break. And during that break, a group of friends and I decided that we wanted to move out to the mountains and work on a ski resort. So we moved out to Vail Resorts. I worked as a cashier on the mountain. I worked at a t-shirt shop, and I worked as a cocktail server. I worked around the clock during those 6 weeks to learn and know everything that I could, actually to make as much money as I could, but also to learn the destination. And while I was there, there was this huge ski competition going on that they were starting to set up for. Imagine it like the Olympics. There were sponsor tents going up. There were big activations being built around town. And this was again in Vail. So really cool activations going on. And I thought, I want to work that event. And the event was taking place the end of January. So I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, there's a super cool event going on. And you know, I'm taking some event classes. Well, I think what I want to do is stay here, make some connections, work this event, skip my spring semester, and finish up in the summer so I can really get some great hands-on event experience. And he was like, wow, that sounds so cool and exactly like what you want to do. But like any good dad, he also finished that sentence with, no, you're going to go back to OU and you're going to finish up your senior year. And if you would like to move to a mountain after college, you can do it after college. So I did. I went back spring semester, finished all my classes, kept doing events on campus. I was involved with a program called Corporate Communications Leaders that Amy mentioned. And so we got some great experience then as well. Then that June, I did have the opportunity to go back to Colorado and got my first job at a hotel in Colorado. Didn't know what I was doing in a hotel, but essentially that's how I started off. I worked in the event department of a hotel, worked my way up from Vail, Colorado. I moved to San Diego in late 2000, moved with another hotel, stayed with that hotel for a couple years, hopped around to a few others, and then started my business. So I love sharing that story because it was one of those moments where I thought, I'm going to get some hands-on learning and work this event. And my dad said, great idea, but no, finish school. So I do tell that story often. Okay, a bit about SD Meetings and Events and who we are. Amy mentioned, oops, we are a third-party meeting agency. What that means, for those that don't know what third-party agency means, is there's the client that is the event owner, the people that are putting on the event, paying for the event, hosting it, and then there are the hotels and the venues, right? And then the suppliers, which suppliers include your AV, your food and beverage, your entertainment, anything like that. Our agency is the middle. We are the third party. So you've got the client, you've got the suppliers, and we are the third party in the center. So you'll see there, our team in the center, we do focus on face-to-face meetings. Up until about 18 months ago, we were doing, I'll say 95% face-to-face meetings. We did do a lot of Zoom meetings before Zoom was cool. We did Zoom meetings with our clients to get to know them a little bit better, to do board meetings. We did use Zoom prior to March of 2020, but for the most part, we were doing in-person events. The last sentence in our description is we do focus on the developing of future leaders and working closely with our industry partners. And what that means is, as you may have heard, I work as a faculty at San Diego State University in their Institute for Meetings and Events. It's their undergrad program that does have a hospitality and tourism management major with a major in meetings and events. So your HTM with your major in meetings and events. So I work with that team. And then I hire, Elena is one of our students. She's here with me now. She's our event coordinator. She works with us, and many of the gals on my team in the photo below are San Diego State alum or alum from other schools. We'll get to this later, but I do love hiring new, young, and vibrant students. So later, if you see any job postings we have, I'd love to see some OU alum apply. Okay, what we're here to talk about tonight, meetings mean business. What does that mean? And I'm going to show you some stats. Don't worry, there's no test, nothing that you have to study, but I am going to show some stats tonight to show you events are fun and celebratory, and they create an experience and invoke an emotion in folks, but they're also meant to get business done. People gather around a board table, they gather on a trade show floor, they gather in a conference room, and they're gathering for a common purpose that is typically tied to an organizational goal. And that goal could be, and I'm going to get into this here in a second, but the goal could be to train their team. The goal could be to have a negotiation. The goal could be to celebrate, like the goal is at a wedding, right? Actually, the wedding's goal is marriage, but you're also celebrating. So what we do is we help put together these meetings and conferences to help accomplish our clients' goals and objectives. There's a lot of fun involved in it too, so don't get me wrong, we do the fun, and I've got some photos to show, but really what I wanted to start out is to show the business element of it. Many of you may have friends that are business majors or marketing majors, but what I want to talk to you about is meetings are business as well. Meetings are communication. Meetings are marketing. So any of you that have different avenues of what you're studying right now and where your desires are can center back on meetings. On our meetings team, we have graphic designers, we have copywriters, we have designers, we have the people that are sitting around the table having those difficult business discussions too. So meetings do mean business. And let me get into a bit more on what that means. For anybody who may not have paid attention the last 18 months, you know that when meetings were illegal, and yes, I use the word illegal, meetings or events were illegal in most states, meaning you couldn't gather as a group, you couldn't travel, you couldn't get together. It impacted the economy. And I'm part of an advisory board and advocacy board called Meetings Mean Business, where I got this name. So if you want to follow them, they have an Instagram as well as a website. It's got a lot of data on there. But what they do is they do a lot of advocacy for what meetings mean to businesses. And right here you can see, and I think some of these stats are actually pre-COVID, but they're a money generator. It's a money generator for economy. It's a money generator for cities and destinations. And it's certainly a job generator let me move on to the next slide to show some more stats. You can see, and again, these numbers are outdated. I apologize again, no test on these, but I more want to show the facts of jobs that are created from meetings and travel. Think about anyone from your taxi driver to your restaurants, to the retail shops, to the airlines. You see the airlines on the news quite a bit. Hotels, of course, all of the different jobs that are within a hotel. But then you have the audiovisual companies. You have the florists. You have the band that's singing at the final night party. There's so many jobs that are generated. And we saw in this past couple years, so many jobs that were lost. Now we're coming back in full force, and I'm excited about that and supporting that. But anyway, here I wanted just to show you that it's not just about event planning and the flowers and linens. It's about the business side of what meetings represent. So again, at the end of this, we'll talk about what you all want to do, but how you can tie what you want to do and still be in the meeting world. Another statistic for you here is about trade shows and conferences. I won't stay on this slide too much more, but just showing just what trade shows, and many of you have possibly been to a trade show before, you know, you're walking the floor, visiting vendors and booths. They are another money generator. And I have so many slides that I could have showed from Meetings Mean Business. Okay, now let's get into what do I do? What does a meeting planner do? And these are 8 simple steps, but I will tell you there are actually hundreds. So I condensed them down to 8 simple steps of what we do. The first one we talk about is goals and objectives, and I'm going to dive into that a bit more later. What are your goals and what do you want to accomplish? Is this a fun event? Is this an education event? Is this a combination of fun and education? Well, we go through what do our clients really want to accomplish and how do we help them accomplish that? And part of how we help them accomplish that is where do we help them accomplish it? Is it a hotel? Is it on a campus? Is it in a backyard? Is it in a barn? Is it in a park? So we start with the goals and then we continue on. We also help our clients develop quality standards, policies, and procedures. This is really the baseline of what do we want to have happen and how are we going to make it happen? Are people going to pay to come to the event? Is it included? Are there sponsors, right? You start diving into what's really included in this event or meeting, what's happened before. So you develop these standards and kind of this baseline, and then you develop from there. Then the fun part is the strategic design for the event. And the design doesn't just mean what are the flowers going to look like and what are the colors. The design means, is this going to be in the fall or is it going to be in the spring? Is this going to take place on a weekend? Is it going to take place on a Thursday? Is this going to happen over the course of a day or is it in the evening? Is this going to take place over the course of a couple days, right? What does the design of the event look like? And how do we reflect the company branding and creativity in that design? Then step 4 has a fancy word in it. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that word, procurement, but procurement essentially means purchasing and procurement means securing. That's really the contracting. This is where a little bit more of the business piece comes into it. What's your budget? How much are you going to spend? Where are we going to buy everything? What hotel are we going to book? Is it the client that only works with Marriott's? Is it a client that's got a lower budget? Is it a client that's got a higher budget? What is everything that we're going to purchase? So again, procurement for this design above. You may all of a sudden get to the procurement part and you're like, shoot, we wanted to have this over 4 days, but we can only afford 2. Or gosh, we really wanted this at a resort in California, but we can only afford a hotel in Minnesota or Texas or other places that may have more affordable. So that's when you start looking at the financial element. And then you're managing the process. I teach a whole class at San Diego State on managing the process. What does project management look like? What is the development? How do you get from point A of an idea to the actualizing of the event? So this managing the process is a really big piece of planning. That's the one I bolded the whole line because there's a lot to do there. And then your milestones and your critical path is the, how do we get there? Do we start planning in 2021 and the program's going to be in 2022? Or, and we've got a client right now, do we start planning right now in October of 21 and the program is December of 21? Everyone all of a sudden's rapid firing planning right now. So what does that timeline look like? What does the path look like of timing? And every client looks different. Again, it depends on all of the above. Everyone's milestones look a little bit different and everyone's path looks a little bit different. And then of course, communications majors, right? You're going to develop your communications plan. You're going to communicate with everyone. And you've got to have a solid communications plan with your attendees or your participants, your guests. You want a communication plan with your sponsors, if you're being sponsored, your client, right? Maybe the end user who's actually putting on the event. Sometimes that's the CEO. Sometimes that's the marketing team. You want to have a communications plan with all of your suppliers and your partners, from the hotel to the AV company, to the florist, to the on-site team that's going to be there, to really having a really solid communications plan. And then the last is you got to make everything above happen. You've got to execute, and you've got to execute it well. You can't start executing and really delivering on the plan until you have the plan in place, right? So the execution is what we also call the operations or on-site or getting things done, right? Okay, I have a whole slide talking about goals and objectives. If I could break down any event into 3 goals, 3 really broad goals, it would be to celebrate, motivate, educate. Celebrations, we know these ones. These are the ones that are fun. You've got a wedding, maybe it's an award ceremony, birthdays, company achievements. Maybe there's a big awards celebration, or celebrating a big milestone in a company, and annual celebration, right? So celebrations, I think we're all familiar with. Motivation is another way. Are we all coming together to incentivize a company? Maybe it's a gala to incentivize people to donate money, right? We've all been to one of those events where you want to motivate people. Competitions, think about a race, like a 5K or a sporting event is motivation, right? Everyone's getting involved in competing. Or maybe some corporate retreats that you want to motivate internal customers or internal team to work harder the next semester. And then the last one is education. Again, we're familiar with what this looks like: training, seminars. Maybe it's a product launch that you want to educate sales team on this new product. And then association meetings do quite a bit of education, right? You're talking about best practices, you're educating people on policies. Government does a lot of education as well. So those would be the 3 buckets. And you know what, guys? A lot of times one meeting has all 3 intertwined to the same. You're going to celebrate the final night. You want to motivate the employees, but you got to train them on the product first. So a lot of conferences have all 3 intertwined, and that's okay. You just plan different elements of the event a little bit different, right? And it's all going to go back to that common goal. And the goal may be a financial goal. The goal may be a intangible goal, like employees being happy, things like that. Okay, here's some more of the fun part of what our team does. And of course, I put some great, beautiful photos in here, and that's site selection. Once we know what you want to do, our team helps you find the right location for that. So we're helping a client right now find the perfect location in Hawaii. So I had to put the photo of one of the properties we're looking for in Hawaii. You've got to find the right location that fits their goals, their branding style, which branding could be, hey, we don't want to look too luxury. We need to actually keep a pretty chill profile. So we don't want to go to Hawaii. We want to find a more simple destination. Or maybe it's, we can't fly everyone to that destination. We need to be more centralized. And then our team will help negotiate for the best value and offerings, right? Some clients have big budgets to spend, but we still want to get the great value. Other clients have lower budgets to spend, and we still want to get them the best hotel for the best value, the best fit that fits exactly what they want. And you see there's a big open ballroom down there that you can then start designing around. The next piece is event design. I could have added so many photos here, and I'm happy to share more photos. Or if you look on our social media, we've got different events we planned, but I put this one up because you can see it is one of those stages that we had a front stage, then we had delay screens, we had a packed house, all chairs focusing on that one speaker. You can see the speaker's tiny up there, but we've got her up on the screen as well. So event design is really, what does the room look like? What does the space look like? What does the flow of the attendees look like? And how does everyone have a great experience, from the time, and I usually say from the time they land at the airport to the time they take off, or in some cases from the time they park their car to the time they get back in the car. But really, it's from the time they get the invitation to the time that they engage with you next, right? Events don't end when they walk out the door. There's a survey, there's a follow-up. Now in the virtual world, we're tagging people in social media after the events. We're engaging with them before, during, and after. So I can go into that further too, of what does event design look like from the very beginning to post-event. I love this slide. Not only bright, cheery photos, but I don't know if you've ever been to an event or a meeting without food and beverage. You usually have some pretty frustrated customers and attendees. So food and beverage is where some of the fun element is added to events. It's where you get to put more into the creativity, right? People will always remember, or they will not always remember a good meal, but they will always remember a bad meal. Same with the design in the look of a food and beverage event. Logistics don't make the event, but they can certainly break it, right? If you've got some bad logistics or long lines for food or bad tasting chicken, right? We've all been at those events too. So these are a couple of events that our team has produced. One of them was actually in a wine warehouse. If anyone's familiar with Chihuly, he's a wonderful glass artist, and he has a museum in Seattle. Our team produced this event right here in the center in the Chihuly Museum. They only have one space in the museum that you can work under because his art is all above. And you can't see in the photo, but I can share it with you later. On the left side, this is actually under the Space Needle in Seattle. So really cool element. The goal of this event was networking with, it was a financial company networking with their customers, and they wanted to wow them, right? They wanted to bring them together for networking. You can do that anywhere, right? They were all based in the Seattle area, but they wanted to wow them. So we put this event on a very cool location in a place that nobody can dine. It's not in a restaurant. So that was a way that we accomplished that client's goal by putting a dinner under a very gorgeous Chihuly sculpture. The one on the bottom left is in Hawaii. You're going to be there at the beach, put the event at the beach. You can see that they're dining there as well. And then the top right one is in LA. It was for a smaller event that needed some indoor, outdoor options. You can see indoor, and then I don't know if you can tell, but those are glass doors that we opened up. And then there was a ballroom just right around the corner. And then the bottom event is a really large conference we plan every year at the Anaheim Convention Center. These folks were in the convention center for 3 days. We fed them on the exhibit floor. We fed them in their hotel room. In their hotel ballroom. We fed them in the convention center. And on their second to last night, we thought we need to get them outside. So we did this food truck event. We brought in all of these cool food trucks that lined the Anaheim Convention Center street and allowed them to network and get outside of the convention center. So again, showing that the food and beverage really ties to the goal, how you serve it, what you serve, where you serve it. It adds that wow factor. And food and beverage, I'm a past director of catering, so food and beverage is one of my favorite pieces. Okay, virtual. We all know 2020, all events in person canceled, closed. So we moved to virtual. The SD meetings team prior to, and I didn't put this in any of our previous information, but prior to COVID, we were what we call registration experts. In order to attend an event, you sign up to go to it, right? You either email your RSVP, now there's some that you can text, or you log on and buy a ticket, right? If you've ever been to a concert or a show, you log on and buy a ticket. That's you registering or signing up to go. Our team was always doing registration prior, which is the technology piece of meetings, the invitation and the communication. And we also were doing mobile apps. If you've ever done an event, and I don't know if you all have mobile apps on campus, but we were very comfortable with mobile apps. So when COVID hit, our team said, crap, all of our events canceled. And we thought, okay, we can't spend too much time sitting on our hands. We need to convert. So we worked with all of our clients to help convert what we had already planned and what we had already designed, and how do we move that into a virtual space. And it took a lot. You can't convert what you do in a ballroom immediately to a Zoom room. It looks different. A Zoom of 5,000 people looks different than a ballroom of 5,000. A Zoom of 20 looks different than a boardroom meeting of 20. And I'm sure you all know this. I do not need to speak to students and educators on how converting from an in-person classroom to an online classroom was different. Meetings were the same. We had to change. What does it look like? How do we get creative? How do we still get people engaged? How do we get people to pay attention? How do we get them to pay to come? So what we started doing was helping clients find, just like we find the right ballroom, we helped find them the right virtual platform. It's not as fun as going to Hawaii. It's not as fun as finding a really cool ballroom, but you still have to accomplish those same goals. So these were 3 different platform options actually that we put into a pitch deck with a client. What does the registration look like? What does the event main page? In event main page, we call, like, what does the foyer look like? What does the ballroom look like? And then what does it look like on the mobile aspect of it? Because most people attend, and I don't know if any of you are attending tonight on your phone. A lot of people are attending meetings from their laptops, their iPads, or their phones. So this is what we did for the last 18 months. I am very excited to say that in-person events are back. I just produced an event this past week in Scottsdale that had all the bells and whistles, lights, amazing food, entertainment. But starting tomorrow, Elena and our team, we are producing 4 events the rest of this month that are all still online. So clients are doing both. And I'm happy to say that our team is comfortable and experienced and trained in both. So I think we're going to stick with the virtual and in person for quite a bit. And if you're familiar with the term of doing both, that's called hybrid. Some people in person, some online. And I think some of you students are familiar with that, right? You go to classroom on campus and you go to classroom on Zoom. So you do the hybrid element of that. Meetings are doing the exact same thing, whether it's synchronous, asynchronous, online, in person, recorded. Okay, now I want to talk about my team a bit. I always say you can't be successful unless you surround yourself with amazing people. And I can tell you that SD meetings would not be as busy, popular, successful if it weren't for the team of staff that we have. I put this in big bold blue font, and you can see from our photos, the SD meetings team, we show up in our what we call SD meetings blue. It's a lot of event companies will be in all black. You can't stand out that way. You want to look for the event people. You want to know who are your go-to. If I need something, who do I go to? So our team, when we are on site, we'll still dress in black and look the way the clients want, professionally or casually, whatever the client's comfortable with, but we show up in blue. You can see some of our registration desk team working registration desks. You can see them huddled, making decisions. We were able to snap a photo of them there. And then the top right one was for a big sponsor activation that we put on, and we stood in front of the clients, step and repeat. So we do offer quite a bit of event staffing. It's one of our #1 services right now. And why I'm going to stay on this slide for a bit is because we are always hiring virtual staff. So those of you that are in Athens, Ohio, or any places of Ohio, that's okay. I can still hire you because we hire online staff. We help produce Zoom meetings. We produce on the other platforms that I just showed you. And then eventually, post-graduation, if you move to other cities and destinations, we'd love to keep you on board to work our programs from around the country. Elena from our team is here if you want to ask her any questions on what it's like to work as in the SD meetings blue or SD meetings online or on site. We're happy to answer those questions.
Out of the video, we're into the Vargas segment.
I don't know if you can hear
Coming
this.
out of the Vargas segment.
I shared my audio, but this is some behind the scenes from virtual events.
Got it.
I wanted to share with you. So the video on the left that you just saw was me walking around a virtual event that we produced. Our speakers there, this was post-vaccination. Everyone was vaccinated. Everyone behind the scenes had masks on, and we had our speakers delivering the content from the podium and from those chairs. The one in the center is a set design. You can see we had our 2 speakers 6 feet apart, and our AV crew over on the right was in masks. So We bring in an AV crew that's set up, and we filmed a virtual event from these two sets. These were two different events. And then the bottom right is our team again. Even though nobody saw us behind the scenes, we still wore SD Meetings blue. This was us with the headsets calling the show, which means telling who's going to go next and doing the online chat and all of that. So this is what backstage of a virtual event looks like. I showed you the food and beverage photos of what it looks like at an in-person event, but I loved doing virtual. We had a great time with it. I missed the in-person, but we really enjoyed virtual as well. It was a great way to deliver some content far and wide. We were able to reach global audiences when we did virtual events. Time check here. Okay, so next is my advice. What advice do I have? I could put this in one bullet point actually, but I put a couple in here, and that advice is the first one. Get involved. Any of you know that it is best to learn with hands-on learning. You're going to have a hard time learning about events or meetings unless you go to them, unless you volunteer for them, unless you get involved. I'm sure OU has plenty of opportunities, whether it be in sororities or within your schools, within your organizations on campus, maybe within the jobs where you work. If there's any opportunity to get involved, get involved. It is how you are going to make connections. It is how you are going to make mistakes. It is how you are going to learn hands-on. So please get involved. And what does that mean? Sign up for those volunteer emails or sign up for volunteer opportunities. And I say watch your emails because trust me, when people need volunteers, they email, they post on social media, they ask, there's a flyer listed. Keep your eyes out for those opportunities and then sign up. The next thing, and I don't know how much you all talk about this on campus at Ohio University, but at SDSU, we have a whole program around professional associations to join and how you can get connected with these professional associations. And there's a number of them in the meeting and event industry. MPI is one that I am most connected with. As Amy mentioned in my bio, I'm a 20-year member of MPI, or Meeting Professionals International. I served as the president of the local San Diego chapter and was honored in 2018 as the MPI chair, which was the chair award out of quite a bit of members from across the globe. So this is one that I can't speak highly enough. It is not just meeting planners, it is meeting professionals. So hotels join, florists join, transportation companies, it's really anyone in the meeting profession. Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, or HSMAI for short. HSMAI is those that are really involved in hotel sales and marketing. NACE, National Association of Catering Executives, or actually I think they just changed to Catering Excellence. I should update my slide. NACE is a lot of folks in the wedding or catering business. Catering is, if you think about weddings, social events, catering is considered possibly events that don't have guest rooms attached to it. There's not a specific definition about it, but in our industry, catering is typically something where people don't travel. It's usually local. Think about your sporting events, or again, I use weddings, birthday parties, anniversaries, things like that. ILEA, International Live Events Association. NACE and ILEA are very similar. I would say ILEA is concerts, parades, big festivals. We've got a lot of students that are really into learning about festivals. Society for Incentive Travel, or SITE, is another one that SD Meetings is heavily involved in. SITE is for folks that travel to exotic or luxury destinations for incentive business. And then PCMA are your big association meetings, those that do those really large conventions and trade shows. Okay, one of the other ways, sign up and follow blogs. I know blogs are not as common anymore as social media or podcasts, newsletters. If you have that opportunity, read and look. There's magazines that I still subscribe to and I get and flip through to get pictures, ideas. I find sponsors that I may want to connect with. I find vendors from different cities this way. If I travel to Boston, shoot, I'm in San Diego. Boston couldn't be farther. So I use blogs and social media to help me find vendors when I go to different destinations. If any of you like to read outside of what you're required to read for fun, there is a book that I love and live by, and that is called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. Priya is amazing. This book talks about why people gather or meet, why people come together, and the whole purpose behind it. She talks about the purpose of baby showers to dinner parties to high-level government events. So this is a really good book. She also has a great podcast for those of you that like listening to podcasts. So Priya Parker in the book Art of Gathering is another advice that for any of you that have a passion like I do about meetings and events. Okay, now the what's in it for me, jobs. A lot of you, if you're graduating soon or looking for internships, you want to know what kind of jobs are out there. This is a very brief list and a very specific list of some titles that you may see out in job postings. Conference service managers, that's how I started. I was a conference service coordinator in a hotel. Some hotels are getting away from using the word conference services or convention services, and they're starting to use the word event managers or event planning managers. EPMs is what I'm hearing some of them. Production coordinators are those of you that have that real technical desire and you may want to work with an audiovisual company. Of course, there's virtual events that are coming up. Event specialists, I see quite a bit for corporations. Corporate event planner are the ones that may work directly for the company. Association meeting manager, corporate meeting and incentives, meeting planning associates, meeting planner, meeting manager, event planner, or event designer. Now, all of these words also have the word coordinator attached to it, director attached to it, specialist, assistant, all of those things. But these are words that you may see in job postings. I know if any of you are LinkedIn searchers, these are some titles that you could look up when you are looking for jobs. If you're looking for internships, take these same words and add the word intern attached to it. But these are some of the more common jobs that I see in postings that I see. Okay, I think I ended with enough time to address some Q&A. Before we get to Q&A, and I'm going to open up the chat here in a second, I also want to encourage you all, and I think Elena probably put in the chat, our website, but also our social media. I also have a personal open social media. If you want to find me, I'll put my personal one there as well too for you to connect and engage with us directly. Elena runs most of our social media for me. So she's the expert in that department, but I would love to connect and stay connected. I think she's also going to put our LinkedIn in there as well if you want to connect for any future mentoring. I love working and mentoring with students. So allow me to stop my share. And if you want, go to gallery view, turn your cameras on, and let's chat. Elena, I know you've probably been looking at the chat. Do you mind feeding me a question?
Yeah. So the first one that popped in was from Emily, and she said, do you have any tips and tricks for dealing with clients who are stressed out about their event?
Gosh, Emily, I know where you're coming from, and I think it's because you're working on a wedding, right? Or a nonprofit. Yep. That's why I don't do weddings. But to be honest, the answer is really, if you stay calm, they'll stay calm. The calmer you are, or sorry, I should say the opposite, the more you rise to anxiety, they're going to feed off that. If you're like, you know what, no big deal. It's okay. It's okay that the ballroom's flooded right now and the meeting starts in a couple minutes. No big deal. We'll figure it out. If you go with that, they're going to feed off of that. So that's the best. The other thing is ask questions. If you feel a stressed customer or client, ask them, hey, what's keeping you up at night right now? Or what do you feel is like the most thing that's giving you the most anxiety? Ask that direct question. For a wedding, it may be like, I don't know, my mother-in-law is driving me nuts. Or it may be, I'm worried about my budget and I just don't want to spend that. Or I've got too many things on my plate. So ask a lot of questions. I always tell clients that I'm going to go into my call with acting like a 3-year-old, and I'm going to ask you what, why, how, who, and I'm going to ask a ton of questions, because questions will get you the answers to a lot of their panics. What else?
So Amy asked, is there a certain class or program you remember participating in during your time at Ohio University that has helped better prepare you for putting out the fires in the event planning world?
Gosh, this is a two-part question because yes, I know the class, but I don't know that it was putting out fires as much. Should I take that back? And I'm not going to remember the name of the class. Jen may need to, Jen Doherty from our advisory board that comes in, but it was a class taught by Candace Thomas Maddox, Dr. Maddox, that was on public speaking and how to not use like, and there was a public speaking class that I took and you got docked a grade every time you said or like. So if I said and like during this, you're welcome to dock me points, but I feel like that class stood out to me the most. There was another one that I remember working on a group project together, and I don't remember what class it was, but there's probably tons of classes that have group projects. And I feel like we worked the best on that because everyone added a different element to the project. And you guys, group projects may seem like they're a pain, but they're going to teach you the most. Because guess what? You're going to get paired with someone that you do not work well with. I mean, that happens in the real world. You're going to get paired with somebody who's a know-it-all. That happens in the real world. You're going to get paired with somebody who doesn't do any of the work, and you got to do all of it. So group projects really help you see what it's like out there. And I also say any classes that give hands-on opportunity is an excellent way to learn.
So then Caitlin has two questions. So the first one is, for events involving food trucks, is that something you would help clients pay for in advance so patrons don't have to pay out of pocket, or does that vary from event to event?
It varies, but that event what we did specifically, and I always say too, no event was planned perfectly by one person. No successful event was planned by one person. There is a team of people. In that food truck event, and now we've done a couple of them, there's a company in Southern California, it's called Food Smackdown, if anybody wants to look into it or start a version of this in the Midwest. But he is the expert in food trucks. So I call Steve and I say, Steve, I need food trucks for 2,000 people. This is their budget. I need vegan, I need meat, and I need all of this. And I need them in bite-sized pieces, and I need them to be able to serve it fast, right? Because if you've ever been to a food truck line, you stand there forever. And you have to look at the menu and decide what you want. So what we did for that specific event was we pre-ordered one item from each food truck. And we had a sign out front that said, you know, I think one of them was like chicken something, and one was like a buffalo, so I think it was like a buffalo dip. And then one was a meat, one was veggie, one was vegan, and then one I think was just a bunch of starch. I think it was a potato truck. And we pre-ordered so people could also visit all of the food trucks and get to know them. And then the food trucks had their social media sign out there that everyone got to follow and get to know them if they ever wanted to use it again. So I would say partnering, this is two answers to that question. Partnering with a great vendor is the best place to start. But yes, we did prepay for those.
And then the second part to her question, what are your tips on planning fundraisers? How do you best package solicitation to encourage attendees to give?
Gosh, the giving's hard. I think you've got to give them some return on investment. Why are they giving back? Really answer. And I said I asked the why a lot. Why are people attending? Why are people donating? And why do people keep coming? So for nonprofits and fundraisers, sometimes it's because they do these every year. Okay, why do you do them every year? Well, because we need to make money. Well, why do people come every year? What makes people pay for that ticket? Sometimes it's just FOMO. Sometimes it's because it's the cool thing to do. Something is because they really support that cause. Same for donors. Why would they want to donate? I hear people that just dial for dollars all the time. If you're going to call a hotel and ask them to donate an overnight certificate, guess what? They get calls like that all the time. You need to tell them who they're donating to, why they're donating, show what exposure they're going to get. People donate for good, but they also donate for exposure too. So showing why they would donate or why they would give is a really big way to get more. And then show them who else is donating too, right? Like, hey, the Marriott donated. Does Hilton want to donate? Or your competitor donated. Do you want to donate too? There's a lot of that peer pressure.
Professor Harder had a question, and it was, what is your vision of post-COVID and the potential for hybrid meetings?
So hybrid meetings are evolving right now. Everything with post-COVID is evolving quite a bit. What we're seeing is associations want people to go in person because there's trade show booths involved. Exhibitors do not want hybrid. Hybrid booths are the worst. Sorry to anybody who manages hybrid or virtual booths, but nobody wants to go to a virtual trade show. They're not as much fun. You want to go walk around and meet folks. And so exhibitors want to go in person. They want to pay to go in person. So associations want people to go in person. However, we're doing quite a bit with education, medical education. I think we just did one for a religious education conference. Speakers don't necessarily want to go. So they are offering the trade show in person, the general session in person, some of the breakouts in person, and then they're doing their breakouts virtually so that some of the speakers that don't want to travel can participate virtually. Then the audience, what they can do is they can opt to go in person and walk the trade show floor and go to the general session. Then they can opt to stream in to the general session room, or the virtual attendees can stream into the general session room. And then they have less options for breakouts right now, and they go to the virtual ones. So we're seeing that. The event we just produced this week was a corporate event. And what they did is they said, everyone's got to go. You got to be there. And it was a company that they waited till the right time to do that. Whether October 1st was the right time, I don't know. But what they did is they, and I'll tell you why they held their meeting and it was the right time for them. They had everyone, their company's requiring vaccination, and everyone had to have a negative COVID test before they could check in. They uploaded it into Salesforce. They had everyone, and then we had COVID tests on site. They tested before they went, tested when they got there. But they made a really, really big company announcement on the second day of the meeting. So they really wanted everyone there and in person. And I'll tell you what, after they did their first 2 days of meetings, and it was content, they made the big announcement. The last 18 hours, and I could show photos, the last 18 hours was nothing but celebration. So a couple people in that room are now making quite a bit more money than they started when they went to that meeting. So I would say they're different. They're different reasons. I'm a fan of in person, but like I said, I like virtual. It allowed me to be here today with you all.
Beck's question is, what are some of your favorite meetings/events you've worked on, and do you have a dream event?
Good question. Great question. That Seattle event that I showed you that we did under the Space Needle was definitely a great event to put on. It was only a 3-hour event. We do more meetings than short events like that, but that was a really cool one to work with. I've got videos that I could send out, but we had a really cool electric violinist who roamed the space that just gave the ambiance and the music. The food was unbelievable. We had local Washington wines come in. So I'm a food and beverage person, so I liked that piece. But really one of my other favorite events is one we plan every year, and it is a STEAM educators. It's all for K through 12 educators. It's in the good years, we were up to 3,000 people. We had 25 breakouts, 100 exhibitors, some really cool keynote speakers. And that one has so many moving pieces and moving parts, and they're not as photo worthy of event. You know, there's not a lot of bells and whistles with it, but the moving pieces behind the scenes is what I thrive on. I'm an Excel spreadsheet person and not a centerpiece kind of person. I hire the centerpiece people, but I'm an Excel spreadsheet kind of person. So that's what gets me amped. In my dream event, I would have to say I've always wanted to be a part of the Super Bowl halftime show. Just because I think it takes so many moving parts. And I just mentioned I've got so many moving pieces. I've seen it. One of the theater directors at San Diego State actually helps produce that. So I'm excited to say that I actually think I'm going to sign up to volunteer this year. It's LA. The Super Bowl's in LA this year. And I've told my husband that I'm going to drive up to LA every week for the month of January. And then I'm going to go probably up in the middle of the night on Super Bowl the night before. And I'm going to be working with a bunch what they call roadies, which are just guys that push carts and get dirty, and because I want to see the behind the scenes, and I'll share a video with you all if he allows me to do so, of the moving pieces of what it takes to produce the Super Bowl halftime show.
So Andrew's question is, what's the biggest daily struggle that could entail with yours or similar careers?
A daily struggle. You know what? I will tell you, I've got two. Right now, although I'm getting better at it, I'm a mom of two. I'm a married mom of two. And the daily struggle is the balance of life. Events happen 24 hours a day for the most part. Hotels were open 24 hours a day. And so the juggle of being a constant professional and a 24-hour mom is one of my struggles, and coming up with, and I think by having a great partner in my husband and babysitters that help is helping get through that. But as far as the career aspect of it, I think the struggle is, I'm not a great writer. One of my struggles is communicating what I want to communicate in writing. I'm much better in person, actually having dialogue with folks. So for me, I feel like I tend to write and rewrite emails a couple times. But in general, for career, I think my advice that I would give you all is maintaining your professionalism. Sometimes you want to just say all the words that you want to say, or you want to throw your hands up in the air and give up. So maintaining that professionalism sometimes can be a struggle, but if you, with the right practice and polish, it becomes less and less of a struggle.
So Beck had another question, and she wanted to know if you wanted to share any of your favorite OU memories.
Oh my gosh, we'd be here for days, folks. We'd be here for days. I was a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority, so I have a lot of great memories and friends that came out of my sorority involvement. I worked at a restaurant called Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings, not BW3s. It was Buffalo Wild Wings. It was right on Court Street. I was a bartender there and a server. Some great memories working there. That's actually how I really started getting into events, was because we would bartend and do events in the basement. And I loved doing that. And it really helped, all the moving pieces. But I'm going to share my favorite OU memory. If you see joining us from the OU Advisory Council too is Jennifer Doherty, who we graduated together, and we were part of a program that was part of the School of Orcom, and it was called CCL, Corporate Communications Leader. And it was started, I think, our junior, senior year. I don't remember if we did it both years, but it was a program that we had to apply and be nominated by a professor. There was, I think, 15 or 16 of us that were selected, and it was run by a couple of our professors and the dean of the program at the time. And they really helped coach us on professionalism. We did some mock interviews, we did some mock projects. And then one weekend in the spring, we got to go to New York City. And in New York City, we met with some corporate executives. We met with NBC Studios. We met with another event producer who also sparked my interest in events. And we got to really learn hands-on and connect. But what I would say, what has given me the most from that is that group is still really close to this day. We're post-graduation 21 years later, and we all communicate and talk often, whether on social media. I just saw one of the girls that's was in that program with me. I saw her a couple weeks ago. We did a program together recently. So I think having that opportunity to go, again, that get involved piece, I got involved outside of the classes, outside of my job, and outside of what I was required to do. And that's definitely one of my favorite memories that I think taught me quite a bit outside of the classroom. All right, I know we're at time. I'm happy to stay on and keep answering. It's only 4 o'clock for me, so I have plenty of time, but I know others probably have to go. I'm happy to connect offline as well. Good. Dr. Harder, anything to close up or anything else that we need to do?
Bobcats, let's give Erin and Elena virtual round of applause for an incredible session. Thank you for sharing your slide deck. I think both the slide deck, this shared experience, but one that will be able to move to other classes as people engage the recording. This is going to help inspire people in ways that we can't anticipate right now, Erin. So thank you so very much.
Happy to do it again. And I was talking to Dr. Harder earlier. I'm hoping to come to campus in the spring. So I would love to meet anyone in person as well.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.